Let's talk about rent control and basic economics and math, which I think a lot of us maybe don't understand. Okay, why there's gonna be issues with what they're proposing in New York and what the problem is gonna be is this. When you go to build a building, you need initial down payment. So let's say we're gonna build a $500 or $600 million skyscraper to provide housing, right? In the past, what they've done is they've made 20 or 25% of that affordable housing, AKA rent control, whatever you wanna call it. Now they want to do any new build has to be completely rent control and turning New York into rent control. Here's why it does not work. You need to have financing, right? So you need a down payment. So you need $50 to $75 million. Most people don't have that in their pocket. I wish I did. So you have to borrow that. Or you go to investors and say, hey, do you want to invest in this building? Investors are going on a rate of return. Why? Because no one's going to hand you $50 or $75 million and say, hey, you know what? Here's 50 million, give me 45 back, or here's 50 million, I don't want anything from it. No, there's gotta be a rate of return. That's anywhere between 8 and 11%. The problem with this is that if you don't give people a rate of return, they're not gonna give you money. And if you have rent control, there's this thing called inflation. I know we've heard of it because inflation went through the roof because eggs went from $3 to $9. With inflation and rent control every year, you're gonna have a negative rate of return. So how are we to provide housing at a negative rate of return? Who's gonna build those houses to lose money? It's not gonna work. And if you're like, well, the government can build the houses. First off, the government can't do anything efficient. And on top of it, the government's still gonna lose money. The government doesn't make money. That's the taxpayers, which means the taxpayers are consistently gonna lose money every year with inflation, with rent control. There's a bigger problem. Rent control and what he wants to do, or what people want to do, causes people not to build houses. What's the main reason house prices go up? It's lack of supply. So you've got rent control, people that are not leaving their places, and you have a system where no one is gonna build anything because you lose money when you build. What's that create? A totally cap on supply. You're literally shrinking all the supply. So what's that gonna do? That's gonna make the places that are available extremely, extremely, extremely expensive. And people are not gonna be able to afford housing. So just in turn, by trying to create affordable housing or create all of this rent control, is gonna have the opposite negative effect. Now you may say, Jason, you're not right. Actually, I'm using facts because Argentina had this issue. Argentina had no housing, but they had full rent control through Argentina. The new president came in there and lifted all of the rent control, and all of this money came flooding in. But what happened? They got a ton of supply. So these are fictitious numbers. Let's say the rent control was at 2,000. After about 6 months of not having rent control, the average rent actually dipped 30%. Rent became actually more affordable without rent control because there was more supply, more investors willing to build. Why are prices starting to dip in the South? Why? Because there's more supply than buyers. This is the issue that we're having in Chicago. You can't build in Chicago, not because of rent control. You actually can't build in Chicago because Chicago's been redlined because the finances are so bad in Chicago, no bank will lend. That's why rents have gone up almost 300% in 7 years. It's not that people are greedy, it's just that the people that demand the rents are paying more than the other person, more than the other person, more than the other person. Why? Because there's no permits being built because banks won't lend in Chicago. And that has to do with Chicago's finances. But it's the same concept. So it's not like I'm talking in hypotheticals. I'm actually talking in real life events. It's happening now in Chicago. And I have no clue how bad it's gonna be in New York. But no one's gonna build in New York. No one's gonna give them money. And on top of it, when you're losing money every year because you can't increase rents to keep up with taxes, inflation, insurance, then what do? Well, I'm not gonna spend any money in my building. So every building becomes a rat hole. That is what's going to happen. And this is not me just saying this may happen. I know it is because there's examples. That's why where they're going in New York is going to be an absolute disaster because we're living it in Chicago.